Hi everybody, welcome back to 3 News Now. I'm Stephanie Haney. Today we are coming to you with your top headlines, trending topics, and everything we're working on for you right now ahead of our 6 p.m. What Matters Most, 7 p.m. Front Row, and 11 p.m. What's Next TV shows. We're coming to you a little bit earlier than normal today on Tuesday, November 19th, 2019, because we will be live streaming the impeachment inquiry hearings as they're happening in Washington, D.C. right here at 2:30 p.m. So before that, we're going to give you a couple of the other top headlines today. Something that everyone is talking about is Burger King being sued over its Impossible Whopper by a vegan who is arguing that it is not actually meatless. We're also going to show you a fun holiday snack that you can make at home before we bring in Will Ewick and Lindsay Buckingham, our 3 News reporters here. Will is going to share with us a pretty eye-opening story about the so-called private information that is out there available to other people about all of us, and it's pretty interesting to hear what he experienced in this experiment that he did. And then Lindsay Buckingham is going to share with us the story of a couple who traveled across the world to complete their family. After that, we'll give you a quick recap of some of the things that happened in the impeachment inquiry hearings this morning concerning President Donald Trump, and then we'll let you know what you can expect when that live stream comes back at 2:30 p.m. All right, first up, we are talking about Burger King being sued over its Impossible Whopper. This was a lawsuit filed in federal court in Miami from a strict vegan, Philip Williams. Now, what it means to be a strict vegan is that you do not consume any food or drink that has any animal byproducts. So what Mr. Williams says is that he went through the Burger King drive-thru in August of 2019, so just a couple months ago, and he got himself an Impossible Whopper. Now, if you're not familiar, Impossible Foods is a company that creates meat alternatives. So this is being marketed by Burger King as 100% Whopper, 0% beef. So Mr. Williams said he went through the drive-thru. There was no indication at the drive-thru, and no one told him at the time that he ordered his Whopper that the Whopper would actually be prepared. The Impossible Whopper would be prepared on the same surfaces where meat is prepared. So because of that, Williams is saying it's not actually meat-free because it gets that byproduct on it when it's being cooked. And Burger King has not actually publicly stated that these are cooked on the same spaces, just to be clear, but they do have a warning on their website that says if you do want a strictly vegan meal, that you need to let them know so that they can prepare it differently than they otherwise do. Okay, so what Mr. Williams is arguing is he's arguing this is a breach of contract. This is a basic contract claim that he's made in his lawsuit. The idea behind a contract is you make a payment for something, you're promised something in return. So Williams is arguing here that he made a payment to get a meat-free burger, and he was not given a meat-free burger by his definition of the standard in return. So that's one argument that he's making. He's also making the argument in this lawsuit, it states that there are lots of consumer complaints about the Impossible Whopper being cooked on services where meat is prepared as well, and that Burger King is not giving anybody refunds for these things. So he's arguing in that way that Burger King is being unjustly enriched, that's the legal term for this, by not refunding these people who are unhappy with their Impossible Whopper experience. The last argument is the most interesting argument. Williams is arguing that the 100% Whopper, 0% beef slogan is deceptive marketing. But, as we mentioned, on the website, Burger King does say for guests looking for a meat-free option, a non-broiler method of preparation is available upon request. That is word for word from the Burger King website if you go and look at the menu item of the Impossible Whopper. So the question here is, what does it mean to be meatless? Now, if you look at the way the FDA has treated some of these things in the past, it's actually kind of interesting because when it comes to calorie count, for example, something can be considered calorie-free if it has up to 5 calories per serving. So when you think of it like that, and you try to think about how much meat byproduct is getting on this if it is being cooked on the same surfaces where meat is prepared, then you can see this argument starts to fall apart a little bit. Now, Burger King will have to respond to this complaint. They haven't responded to it yet. They do have some time to respond to the lawsuit. I also reached out to Burger King to see if they had a comment for us, and I didn't immediately get a response to that, but Burger King has told other media outlets that it does not comment on pending litigation, so not necessarily expecting an answer there. All right, in just a moment here, we're going to bring in Will Ewick, and he is covering a story for us about the eye-opening details that we find when we ask someone to look into what private information is available on us in the internet space. So it's my understanding that Will actually sacrificed himself in order to have someone look into his background and what was available, what information was available about him, knowing just his name, to see what that person could come up with. So that story will be in our later broadcast today. Will let me know exactly which show we can catch that in. But in doing this, he set out to find out exactly what people could find out if you just know their name and you do a search for them using, I'm pretty sure we'll have to double check this with Will, but just the means that would be available to anyone. He'll let us know exactly who he talked with and what the process was that they went through. Will, thank you for joining us here on the live stream.
Yeah, thank you.
So in trying to figure out exactly what so-called private information is out there about all of us, who was it that you sought out? Who did you work with?
It was a private investigator, and we kind of did it two ways. And one was just look what maybe your neighbor, what Joe Smo could find, but then also he's a licensed private investigator, so he's looking into things that law enforcement has access to, licensed people. And although that gives you a little bit of a good feeling, I took that to the FBI, and it's like, well, anything can be hacked. The FBI was hacked. The person I interviewed said that her daughter's information was stolen when the FBI was hacked, and her daughter's social security number was being used without her knowing it. So although some of these things are encrypted and they're harder to get into, and maybe you or I can't get on there and figure it out, people that do this over and over, I mean, that's what they do, and anything can be hacked, so it's just very important for you to be diligent when you're looking through things to make sure that you're not one of them.
So you mentioned when the FBI information was hacked that they got access to a social security number, but you started this process just giving your name to someone, is that right?
It was a private investigator. I called him, I told him what I wanted to do, and I said, here's my name, and he said, okay, I'll come find you tomorrow. I gave him 24 hours, didn't give him my address. He shows up, calls me, hey, I'm pulling in, and here's what I have. And he had a giant binder with social security number, pictures obviously that I've shared on social media, daughter, wife, my floor plan for my house, when I purchased it, how much I bought it for. There was even a picture of my car in a parking lot when I was on a shopping trip with my daughter, because you can use the license plate and track it there. So it's just, I think we all know that there's a lot of information about us out there, but we don't quite grasp how much there is and how easy it is for certain people to obtain within 24 hours. And he said, okay, it was 24 hours maybe from when I called and he met me. It only took him a couple hours to do all this.
And he actually showed up to your home.
Yeah, he said, I'll come find you. And I kind of laughed thinking like, oh, okay. And he sure as heck pulled right in. Because not only did he have my address, he had where I lived previously and before that and before that and before that, and the house in college and where I grew up and my home phone number when I grew up and my current phone number and maybe a previous cell phone number. It's just amazing because, he and I even got to talking about social media posts. If you see a story like this, it makes you rethink what are you putting out there. Mm-hmm. The problem is you need to start now looking forward. You can't look really backwards because, he's telling me it doesn't matter what you do. If it's out there, it's out there. And we're even talking about permanent records, or I guess not permanent records, but your records. If you've, let's say, been given this OVI, or you've spent a night in jail for something in college or whatever, you can go through the process of getting a lawyer and getting all that expunged, but these people can still find it. Just because you've deleted the post, the picture, you've had your record expunged, you're just hiding it. It's still out there, and certain people will have access to that for the rest of your life. So it is kind of an eye-opening experience to really think, especially the younger generation coming up, about knowing what to share and what not.
Sure, and the cache, right? Things that are in the internet cache, things that you think may be deleted, they show up there, and they're just sort of indexed and referenced, and they never quite go away.
Right, you're just hiding them. If you're deleting something, you're expunging something, you're scrubbing something, you're just putting it on a rock somewhere. And it may be harder for me to find, but there's a guy that's pretty good somewhere, or a girl that's pretty good somewhere at picking up those rocks and finding them.
So aside from the obvious that this person showed up to your house just by knowing your name within a couple hours, they were able to do that, why else is this particularly dangerous? Why should people be concerned about this?
Well, the thing is, because just as we kind of talked about, this could be happening and you not knowing it. I didn't know. I didn't get an alert from my credit card company or my bank or the Social Security office or anything saying, hey, someone's looking into you. The only reason I knew is because I told him. So the other interesting thing is, so he was even able to give me like a family tree. And on my family tree was not just me and my sister it went to my sister's husband and his dad. It went to my wife and my in-laws, but it also went sideways to the person that owned the house before me and some of their family, and the person that bought my house that I sold and some of their family. So, I mean, I asked them, so I'm probably showing up on some of these because I had a cup of coffee with someone one time. And you are. So you're showing up on,
Wow.
People are connected. That's the internet. And you're showing up on things when people are looking into people, and your information is out there. So I guess the important thing is, in speaking with this private investigator as well as the FBI, is we've heard it before. Think before you share, but also you need to look and not just kind of glance. When you're getting bills, when you're getting your credit card statement, even your explanation of benefits, because that happens a lot where people are stealing people's health insurance and using it.
Wow.
They'll take a loan out on your house. So you just need to be diligent and not just kind of, oh, that's that, yeah, it looks fine. Make sure the dates match up with your doctor's appointment. Make sure that was you at the gas station that got the Twix and charged $125 or whatever it was. Because a lot of times they're going to do that to see if you catch it, and if not, it's going to get bigger and it's going to get worse.
One thing that has occurred to me in thinking about this privacy issue is, we see people post these like birth announcements, which are very exciting. But that is often a security question that we get asked to log into things. What is your birthday? Where were you born? What's your mother's maiden name? And it's like, okay, well, your child is now ruined. Your child's internet security is now ruined.
So
sorry, but that's something I think about.
You kind of hit the nail on the head a little bit, because obviously when you're doing this on TV, you get a finite amount of time to tell the story. And there were things that I didn't quite have time to get into that I discovered during this, like facial recognition. We got into that a little bit. That's not in the piece tonight. Right. But we talked about birth date, and there seems to be a set of dominoes, if it helps you with an analogy. Think of your social security number, think of your birth date, think of your maybe banking information, and maybe your license. But there's a few things that are kind of dominoes, and if they get one or two, they can all fall down very easily. Once they get one or two, if I'm speaking about a hacker here, they can really grab a lot of the other things. And one of them is your birth date. And we don't think about this, right? We're on Facebook and we're wishing people happy birthday, and everyone's birthday. It's on there. But that's step one. That's the first domino. So now I have, your name and your birth date, and then where do I go from there? How hard is it going to be to find X, Y, or Z to start the whole house of cards from falling down? So it's I posed the question to both of them, the private investigator and the FBI, are we being a little too
cavalier
about our birthday? And they said, kind of. I mean, you don't want to live in a constant state of fear. So that's not what this piece is about.
Right.
It's just to kind of open your eyes a little bit to what all's out there, and maybe we should be a little bit more reserved about some of the information that we're giving out.
Well, that's really good information to have. Will, where can people watch this tonight?
It's on tonight at 11, and then, of course, it'll be online afterwards sometime, I think, I don't know when they post it.
Pretty
midnight,
quickly.
1 a.m., something like that. So for the people getting up early, it'll be on that.
Before they're out of here, after the 11 p.m. show, it'll be up on WKYC.com. All right, thank you, Will. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Yep.
All right, well, I know that was a little bit scary. So after that, we're going to show you something that's fun in terms of the holiday right now. There was a Facebook post that was a holiday snack that you can make yourself easily at home. Heather Chastain posted this, and she gave credit to Chris Bavender. And what this is a Grinch snack. And we've got that up on the screen for you right now. This is a mini marshmallow, a piece of strawberry, a banana slice, and a grape. And you put it on a small stick, like a toothpick or whatever, and then you get a Grinch kebab. And it looks like the Grinch that stole Christmas. And that's just a fun, healthy snack that you can make for your kids or family or friends if they come over during the holidays. That'll probably get a laugh from your friends, and it'll be tasty, and it's healthy as well. So wanted to share that with you. I thought that was pretty cool when I was scrolling through my Facebook feed and noticed that. All right, next up we are going to bring in Lindsay Buckingham. She has a story that's airing tonight in the 11 p.m. What's Next broadcast as well. This is the story of a family that is finally complete after decades of trying. Lindsay, thank you for joining us here on the live stream.
Thank you for having me again.
So excited to have you here. Always love to have you here.
Oh, well, I love being here with you, and you know what? I'm even more excited that I get to be here talking about this really wonderful story that goes right along with National Adoption Month, which is the month of November. So it really started with a 25-year journey for this couple in North Ridgeville.
And it was Scott and Lisa Goodson of North Ridgeville that you talked to, and it was their adopted daughter Emma who is the joy at the end of this story, but didn't necessarily start out that way. What is it that happened to Emma that ended up leading her to the Goodsons?
So first I want to say that Scott and Lisa Goodson are lovely people. They live in North Ridgeville. They had been on a journey for 25 years to have a child. So they get a call in 2010 that this baby, this infant, was found in the streets of Shanghai, China.
Wow.
So the baby was abandoned in the streets. Someone found the baby, brought, who is now Emma, to an orphanage, and that kicked off this journey for the Goodsons.
Wow.
Really started with a phone call.
So one phone call 9 years ago completely changed their lives. What can you tell us about Scott and Lisa's journey leading up to that amazing moment?
Right. So, you know, I think that this is a really wonderful story for families who need hope for kids. I mean, can you imagine waiting 25 years for a child? But they never gave up hope. And after trying every method to conceive a child, anything you can think of, they tried. They had several failed adoptions. So what they did was they signed up through a special needs program in China, and that is how they were matched with Emma. And I will never forget Lisa saying, as soon as I saw her picture, I knew it was our daughter.
Oh my gosh.
And it just sends chills up your spine because the Goodsons love Emma with everything in them, but their journey hasn't been easy.
No, it hasn't, and you get into that in the story. So they get that call in 2010 from this adoption agency, which you mentioned is a special needs adoption agency.
That's right.
So then what happens from that moment?
Right. So they signed up through a special needs program. They don't know what disorder, what disability they're going to be facing. Emma suffers from a cleft lip and palate, a severe one at that. So they saw a picture. They knew that they were in for some serious surgeries, and they never hesitated. They waited 6 months to get Emma. So they flew over to China after 6 months. They bring Emma back, and then the journey wasn't easy. They had multiple surgeries, but through it all, over this course of these 9 years, they have stood by her, and they've done it all with faith and hope and a smile. And so it's just one of those stories where you look at the struggles in your life and you say, this family is so grateful for what they have, and Emma is so grateful to be with loving parents and a loving home and thriving, that they've overcome. It's really special.
And Emma is 9 now, and she's thriving, as you said, and you got to meet her as well as part of the story.
I light up when you even bring her up. She is just a beautiful, vibrant young lady. She loves music. She plays the drums. You'll get to see a little bit of that.
Oh, that's so cool.
She is just a spunky, normal 9-year-old girl who has, of course, faced tremendous challenges, but handled it with just such grace. And you'll also get to hear from Emma's doctor, one of her doctors at the Cleveland Clinic, who says, you know, she is such a fighter. She is such a warrior. She never complains. And it's just, again, one of those lessons where you look at your life and you say, if I need hope today, I can draw it from these people, certainly.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that story with us, Lindsay, here on the live stream. That'll be in the 11 p.m. story as well, so you can actually see Emma and her family in action.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Lindsay. All right, looking ahead at what is coming up next this afternoon, we have the impeachment inquiry hearings continuing here in just a couple of minutes. We'll have that here on WKYC.com, also streaming live on Facebook, so make sure you stay with us for that. This morning, we had 2 people testify already in the public hearings. Let me just give you an overview in case you're not up to speed on what's going on here. Democrats say President Donald Trump pressured Ukraine to investigate Democrat Joe Biden, and in doing so, that Trump withheld U.S. military aid that Ukraine needed to resist Russian aggression, and so that may be grounds for removing President Donald Trump from office. So that's the basis of starting this impeachment inquiry and these hearings. Now, President Donald Trump says he did not do any such thing on that phone call, which happened in July, and that the Democrats just want him gone. So this morning we heard from Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman. He's the top Ukraine expert for the National Security Council. And then we also heard from Jennifer Williams, an aide to Vice President Mike Pence. Both of these people listened in real time to that July phone call between Trump and Ukraine's president. This morning, Vindman said, quote, "What I heard was inappropriate." Now, Vindman is a 20-year military officer, and he reported his concerns, he said, quote, "out of a sense of duty." And he said that he did so, quote, "because they had significant national security implications for our country." Williams, who also testified this morning, is a career State Department official who has worked for 3 presidential administrations and counts former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice, as a personal hero. Williams said the phone call was the first time she had heard anyone specifically seeking investigations from Ukraine. And I quote, she said, the reference to Biden sounded political to me. And Williams said the call was, quote, unusual because the specific reference to Joe Biden and his son Hunter, quote, struck me as political in nature. So that's what we had this morning in the inquiry hearings. Now at 2:30 p.m., we will have Kurt D. Volker, who is the former U.S. Special Envoy to Ukraine. And we will also have Timothy Morrison, a Europe and Russia expert for the National Security Council. Morrison, up this afternoon, also listened in real time to that July phone call, so make sure you stick with us for that. Thank you for joining us here on 3 News Now. We appreciate you being a part of the live stream. Make sure that you like our Facebook and follow our page so that you continue to get these updates. And also subscribe to our YouTube channel and make sure you click the bell so you get a notification every single time we go live so that we can have you here for all of our 3 News Now updates each afternoon. I'm Stephanie Haney. Stick right with us in just a couple minutes. We'll be back with the impeachment inquiry hearings. Thanks.